make some sense of it all, but I can see it makes no sense at all. Is it cool to go to sleep on the floor? 'Cause I don't think that I can take anymore. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is Saturday, February 28th, the last day of February. My gosh, where is 2026 going? To war, apparently. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Big Alberta deficit. Danielle Smith is a spend Liberal premier like usual. Across Canada, we just get Liberals who pretend to be Conservatives, unfortunately. That's our error, I think. We should call out the Uniparty and not allow them to continue governing us because they don't work for us. But I keep saying that. Halal chicken is cheaper than non-halal chicken. If you want non-halal chicken, you're going to have to spend more premium prices for slaughter that is humane. Weird, right? Isn't that strange? That's a strange thing to have happen in Canada, if you ask me. Iran war kicks off, but is the target China? Apparently, Iran sends 80% of their oil to China. And so that's interesting. That's an interesting situation. That's an interesting coinky dink. Is this about freeing Iran or is this about cutting off China? Is it about both? I don't know. Is it going to be a war? I remember Venezuela. And they said, oh my gosh, Trump is doing regime change in Venezuela and he's the worst guy ever and he's run by Israel, which the Venezuela thing, I don't know. This one, everybody's saying Israeli Trump is a terrible guy and he's doing Israel's bidding. Maybe, but maybe there's more to this than that. Maybe it's just that simple. Maybe Bibi called up Trump and said, Trump, we're going to a war with Iran. And Trump said, yes, sir. Possible. Who knows, right? I don't know. I'm not Trump and I'm not in the White House and I have no connection to anybody. I just sit in my garage. But it's possible, right? But just like Trump, Catherine Austin Fitts thinks Trump is in bed with the bad guys and is one of them. And it just doesn't map for me. It just doesn't map. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. And I'm willing to entertain the idea that Trump is just as bad as all the rest and bringing in digital central bank digital currency and digital IDs and all the rest. Maybe he is. But it doesn't map for me because they didn't need him. In fact, what he's doing seems to be pissing them all off. And so it just doesn't map for me. A lot of people think it, and a lot of people are really mad about Trump and what he's doing. But they were mad about Venezuela, and look how that turned out. And so we'll see what happens. At this point in time, I'm just going to tell you what happened, and you can make up your own mind. I'm not going to tell you good or bad. I'm going to try and tell you both sides, ish. I want Canada to do well. I don't want Canada to go to another war. I want Canada to get rid of the people. We're in a war right now. I want Canada to get rid of the people who are waging war against us, and they're in our House of Commons. That's where they are. And so, not that I don't care about Iran or the Iranian people, but I feel strongly that if another country comes in and fixes your problem for you, that's just trading dictators, right? And right now, we're not governed by us. We're governed by people who are working for communist China. And I think that's clear. And what are we going to do about it, right? And so like Trump being distracted by Iran, maybe that's not America first. Maybe it's not. But maybe it is. Maybe there's a reason it is. Maybe the Chinese being cut off from the oil, maybe it is. But again, I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe this is fully for Israel and Trump's a traitor too. And we're all screwed and we can't do anything about it because they've got all the guns. They've got the power of the state behind them. And we've got memes. So lots to get to. Let's get to it first. War. Jack says, holy cow. Just before all of this happened, Trump went to McDonald's and bought everybody hamburgers. Oh no, he went to Whataburger. Not McDonald's. So Jack says, holy crap. An electric crowd in Whataburger just broke out into USA chants for President Trump. 47 stopping by on the way back to Air Force One. This is Trump in his element. So he's just talking to the people hanging out at Whataburger. Here we go. You get the idea. Popular. Biden didn't get that, right? Biden got the press standing there saying, which ice cream flavor are you eating today, sir? So pretty wild stuff. The Bucky Well says, breaking U.S.-Iran war about to kick off. Whatever happens next, it will happen very soon. This is yesterday evening, 10:24 p.m. It wasn't until 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was up, actually, 2 minutes after the people started reporting on it. I saw come across my feed. I was like, holy smoke. Well, we're doing this Iran thing, I guess, eh? Anyway, whatever happens next happens very soon. Yep. All U.S. embassy staff in Israel were instructed to leave the country too. Get out of Israel, get out of Iran. We're going to go in and we're going to maybe give it back to the Iranian people. This is Trump. This is 8 Minutes. He's talking about how bad Iran is and what they're doing. And he says, once we get rid of the government, you can take the government. It's yours to take.
The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may.
Sorry, that's too fast. Too fast. I listened to it double speed so I can get to the important parts. I think I've got the important part here. It's right 5.5 to 6.5 minutes right there.
U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that, with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or, in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond.
Does that sound like Trump wants Iran for America? Is he going to make it a proxy American state and they start getting Iranian oil to sell to other people with giving a little bit to the Shah? Maybe. Trump apparently met with the Shah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that went. I didn't hear anything about it. But apparently there was a meeting. So pretty crazy stuff. And again, I'm just a Canadian in my garage, so I don't know. But it doesn't look like what the hair on fire pundits are telling us it looks like. It looks serious. It certainly looks serious, but it doesn't look like what they're telling us it looks like. It looks like a Venezuela, but more serious than Venezuela, I think, because there's nothing happening in Venezuela now, and I don't know if that's going to be true 2 weeks in Iran, right? But we'll see. And nothing to do but see at this point in time. St. Michael says, 4 o'clock in the morning, this is what I saw. 7 minutes ago, U.S. and Israel launch an attack on Iran as Trump says major combat operations are underway. So I wonder if they're going to have their discombobulator out. We'll see. And here is Nick. He says, breaking U.S. military strikes have hit major sites in Iran, including Iranian Parliament, National Supreme Council, Ministry of Intelligence, Iranian Atomic Energy Agency. There have also been major cyber attacks on Iranian news agencies, and strikes are still happening. So there you go. Pretty wild stuff. Basil says, national security headquarters in Iran has been destroyed. The Americans are not messing around. This is the end of the Islamic regime. Maybe. Regime change in Iran, handing it back to the Shah, maybe. Handing it back to the Shah and Trump, maybe. The U.S. and Israel have blown up the office of the supreme leader of Iran. Iranians can be heard cheering the strike in this video, which comes after Iran massacred tens of thousands of its own people last month. Trump appears to be going for regime change. Now, I am old enough, and I was an adult during the 2000, not much of an adult, but an adult nonetheless. I'm 45 now, and now I understand how big a difference experience makes. So in 2001, 2, 3, the fallout from 9/11 was happening. They were trying to justify a war in the Middle East, as usual. And I remember looking at all of this and thinking, like, this is, one, going to happen. And two, they had videos of Iraqis pulling down statues of Saddam Hussein, celebrating the freeing them of this, dictator or whatever. But It was more complicated than that. And that was propaganda. Is this propaganda too? Could be. Like, take it with a grain of salt. The Iranians are saying they're happy. I've seen lots of Iranians. Goldie, what's her name? Goldie Gomor. I think I'm probably getting it wrong. But she was an Iranian Canadian who was a member of provincial parliament in Ontario, and she's no longer a member of provincial parliament, but she talks about Iranian issues. She was saying, this is great. And a whole bunch of Iranians I'm seeing, this is great. So, but if Trump came in and took out our government, I don't think I'd be sad. If Trump came in and said, these people are criminals and we're going to arrest them and put them in jail and like figure it out, Canada, but not with these communists, I don't think I'd be sad. And that's not propaganda. I don't think I'd be sad. I think I'd be like, yes, let's do this. So long as we're not beholden to the United States and Trump in any more of a way than we were. Do we get to be, quote, sovereign? Not really. We're not now. Like, we're not at all. Anyway, we can make stupid choices like human rights tribunals, fines, and all sorts. We can do all sorts of stupid things, but we're not sovereign. Our country is not making decisions for ourselves. We hand that stuff over to the United Nations. We hand that stuff over to also the WHO. We hand that stuff over to everybody else but us, except for let's screw Trump. And Carney's doing that personally, or trying to anyway, and he's failing. He's not very good at it. Lyndon says China is the real target to prevent China from becoming the new global power. 35% of Chinese oil comes from, well, Iran. 80% of Iranian oil goes to China. But 35% of their oil totally comes from these three sources: Russia, Venezuela, and Iran. So Venezuela is cut off, as far as I understand it, because they were illegally selling that oil, and they weren't, according to Trump in the United States, illegally selling that oil, and they weren't allowed to do that. So Venezuela's cut off, and now Iran's cut off. And then is Russia going to be cut off? Because they're BRICS, right? Like BRICS countries. So that's interesting. We'll see where this is going. We're only in the very beginning of Trump's second year, blah, a month and a bit in, right? And so, interesting. You can see the war games for power playing out. Control oil and you control global decisions. Yeah, I guess. Energy's a big deal these days. Here's an Iranian. Rita says, young Iranians are celebrating, saying they hit them. Strikes reportedly hit Revolutionary Guard personnel. So there you go. That's interesting, right? I think that's very interesting. Neil says if a Democrat president were doing this, he'd be saying the opposite. He's a total charlatan and a warmonger. And on this occasion, Starmer's right. We need to stay out of this one. Nigel Farage says Prime Minister needs to change his mind on the use of our military bases and back the Americans in this vital fight against Iran. So Nigel Farage wants to go. Starmer says no, and Rupert Lowe says no. GB News says, this guy says, I would prefer that we just focus on the issues facing Britain. Charlie Downs, I don't know who Charlie is, says Britain has had enough problems of its own to be getting involved in foreign conflicts that have no benefit to ordinary British people. Fair. I agree. I don't think we should be involved in Ukraine. I don't think we should be involved in Gaza, Palestine, Israel. I don't think we should be involved in anywhere else. And we shouldn't be sending money for beach posters. We shouldn't be sending money for food relief. We shouldn't be anything like that. Anything like that at all should go to a referendum that is paid for with the money that we're sending. So if the referendum costs $1 million and we were going to send 5 million, now we're sending 4 million because you have to pay for the referendum. You understand? So we get a say where our money goes. I don't think it should go anywhere. I don't think it should go anywhere outside of Canada. We'll have a big ass military. We'll have a big ass Coast Guard, and we will not let anyone in to harm us. Where right now, we're importing the people who harm us. Why? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. Basil the Great, Nigel Farage says we need to get involved in the Iran conflict. Rupert Lowe says we need to stay out. Massive Difference tells you all you need to know. Sure. And then arguments of, we have to fight them in Iraq. We have to fight them in the Middle East, or we're going to end up fighting them here. We fought them in the Middle East. The Americans did, because we didn't really do that. A little bit, not much, comparatively. Fought them in the Middle East, and then we imported them to Dearborn, Michigan and Canada, and now we're removing the images of food on advertisements during Ramadan. So fight them there so we can import them here? Is that what we did? Because it seems like that's what we did. And when you bomb the shit out of a foreign country and those people get mad at you, if Canada got bombed to shit and then I had the opportunity to go and live in a hotel in the place that bombed my country to shit, yeah, I'd probably go and gleefully F with them, right? Like, what we've done in the West doesn't make any sense unless we're trying to destroy ourselves. Okay, so pretty crazy stuff. And it seems like we are trying to destroy ourselves. Sassafras says, I see what you're doing, President Trump. I see it. I now understand it. I'm not sure I understand it, but maybe. Cutting off the communist head. Maybe. But then Canada is on like Ned Stark. Man, we're standing there and everybody's like, are they going to cut his head off? And please, because that ain't Canada anymore. We're not Ned Stark, unfortunately. But everybody thinks we're Ned Stark, but we're not. We're Palpatine, for crying out loud. But everybody thinks we're Ned Stark. I also understand why you want Greenland. I also understand why you want to purchase Canada. I also understand why you want Cuba. Very strategic and setting America up for the end game and strong defense. Pay attention, folks. Yeah, I don't think they're wrong. It's power into the future, and I think that it's interesting to watch. We live in interesting times, and that's not a good thing. Red Pill Dispenser says, did slavery ever really come to an end? Yesterday, I was talking about how we traded one version of slavery for another version of slavery, and we live in a slavery system now. We just have to pay for our own house and our own food. And the slave owners are like, watch them not have any money to afford vacations anymore because they're going to be paying, or anything else, because they're going to be paying for food and housing, and they won't be able to afford, gasoline or anything like that. They won't be able to afford any of those extra things. And so we live in a slavery system where previously it didn't feel like a slavery system because you could just ignore that and, have your vacation, have your jam in the middle of winter, have all of these things that you don't have to think about. It's all just there, right? It's the convenience trade, but we're still slaves. We're still working we give, 60% of our wages, 55% of our wages to taxes to these kings and looters? Unbelievable. But here's Red Pill Dispenser. Did slavery ever really come to an end? Slaves used to work all day, every day with no pay, but they get free food, water, and shelter. Okay. Today we work all day, nearly every day, and we get paid, but the money we make, we spend on food, water, and shelter. Wow. Modern day slaves. Not so good. Mike says, today in question period, a member of the Liberal leadership team accused me of misinformation after I quoted from the 2025 Liberal election platform. Bottom line, the Liberals promised the strongest economy in the G7. Today we found out that Canada's economy is shrinking, the only G7 economy in that position. The Liberals apparently don't appreciate this being pointed out. No, because it destroys their fantasy of a narrative that they're trying to spin, right? We're strong and we're super strong and we're going to win this trade war against the United States. No. But getting into a trade war with the United States achieves the globalists' plan of reducing our living standard. And the United States gets on board because it's a trade war, and Canadians get on board because it's a trade war, and we want to, quote, win or whatever, and that winning just hurts us, right? Like, look at the tariffs. It's harming us for food. Like, the food prices are insane right now. It's still cheap and plentiful, right? You can... Somewhere in the early 1900s, people were spending like 80% of their money on food because there wasn't anything else to buy, but like not much else to buy. Property, I guess, but a lot of it was spent on food. And now we spend 20%, something like that. And so is there a lot of space? Mm-hmm. Sure is. If you're an economist looking at things like, oh, well, they don't need that vacation. They don't need this. They don't need that. We can inflate food another double, at least, maybe even twice. Right. So yeah, they're screwing with us and they know it, and we're slaves and we can't do a damn thing about it. So, sucks when you look at reality. Or maybe you're just pessimistic, black-pilled. I hope not. I want to believe that there's a way out of this. But Pierre Poilievre says, Canada is the only G7 country that is shrinking after the Prime Minister promised to make us the strongest economy in the G7. Carney has kept or worsened all the same Liberal policies for the last 10 years. No pipelines approved, no anti-development laws repealed, 17 new bureaucracies created, deficits doubled, spending at 30-year highs, and Canada's real GDP by expenditure shrank by 0.2%. So, and by 0.6% in this graph. Pierre Poilievre again, April 26, 2025, the Liberal Party promised a Mark Carney-led government would build the fastest growing economy in the G7. Today, we learned that Canada is not the fastest growing economy in the G7. Far from it. We're 2, 4, 6. Oh, we're the last in the G7. We're 7th. Oh. United States has real GDP annualized growth rates, 1.4. This is 25. 1.3 in Italy, 1.2 in Germany, 0.9% in France, 0.2% UK, 0.2% Japan, negative 0.6 in Canada. So that carbon tax is working a treat. Right? They want to deindustrialize us, and they're doing it right now. And it's absolutely crazy. Taco says the NDP won Surrey Guildford by just 22 votes, securing a 4-year majority NDP government. Exactly 22 votes were cast from a seniors residence and were ordered by a single person. The BC elections team failed to follow protocol to ensure the integrity of these votes. The Remanded, the Reclaim Air, these guys are dogged on this election thing. It's obviously fraudulent. It's been, it was 24. It was 2024 when it happened. And like, they're deleting things. Nobody's going to be held accountable for any of this. Nobody's going to turn back any of the bad laws that the BC NDP have put forward, not the bad budget, nothing. Nobody's going to do anything about it. Why? Because this is the goal. This is the goal. Our government doesn't work for us. I wish it wasn't so, but it is. Taco says, oh yeah, we've already done this one. Next. Free Alberta says Danielle Smith is excited to announce this wonderful AI data center brought to you by Canada Pension Plan and Brookfield. So Danielle Smith says yet another multi-billion-dollar investment has just been announced, proving the Alberta AI data center boom is well underway. I showed you yesterday or a couple of days ago in Connecticut? No. New Jersey, New Hampshire, somewhere in the United States. And I can't remember where it was. And they were protesting. They didn't want these AI data centers because they were worried that they would take too much water and impact the farming around there. Danielle Smith doesn't care about the water or the farming. She cares about data centers in Brookfield, right? So she says, with the elimination of Ottawa's net zero power regulations under the Memorandum of Understanding and our province's massive tax advantage, Alberta is becoming a world-class AI powerhouse from data centers to research to applications. So excited to see the new Alberta jobs and opportunities this creates. So weird, right? Super duper weird. Not weird. It's what's your game, Danielle Smith. She's doing this, and I don't think people want it, or people don't understand how bad it's going to be, and that's just as bad. I've got to say goodbye to the stream soon, but I've got a couple more things I'm going to try and get to the end of this, and then I'll say goodbye to the stream. Mark Emery says this must be made illegal. It's white male erasure writ large. Chris says the University of Toronto just posted a job opening for a tenure stream professor of computational biology and data science. No white men allowed. Right? You have to be a woman and gender minority, those who identify as women, trans, non-binary, two-spirit, gender fluid, based on gender identity that best describes applicants at the current time, racialized people, visible minorities. It's a lucky thing that I identify as a black elderly woman. So I tick all the boxes, man. I'm a 79-year-old black woman. Don't you know, y'all? So that's just because I identify that way, right? And in Canada, everybody has to accept